Welcome, everyone, back to my channel. If this is your first time here, or if you've been here before, you pull up a seat, sit down, and we're going to talk, okay? I'm Leanne, your host. So, I told you were going to see this quite a few times. We are almost done. I've got 2 more to listen to, and then I will be done with this book here for Sherlock Holmes. And that will be the end of my April listening, as you will. So yeah, that'll be done with my April year or listening. So this is the story is the adventure of the Bruce-Partington plans. Author, of course, Arthur Conan Doyle. Series Sherlock Holmes. What else? The summary. One morning in November 1895, Sherlock Holmes is very surprised to receive a visit from his brother Mycroft, bringing him the case of Arthur Cadogan West, was a civil servant found dead on subway tracks at Aldgate, with plans of a top-secret submarine on his person. According to Mycroft, the plans were kept in a safe whose keys were held by men considered to be above suspicion: Sir James Walter and Sidney Johnson. Arthur Cadogan West was known as a serious employee, and Johnson's deputy. It is believed that he stole the plans to sell them and was killed during the transaction. So that's basically a rundown of what they're looking at for this mystery that's going on within it. As you know, Sherlock Holmes is, of course, supremely intellectual man who is our protagonist and the person that is focused on. You have Dr. John Watson, who is a narrator of the stories for Sherlock Holmes, and this is one of the ones he picked for us to learn about of the many hundreds that have happened throughout his time with Sherlock Holmes. I'm yawning. Okay. So then you have Mycroft Holmes, Sherlock Holmes' brother that holds the same type of intelligence as his brother. He uses his brain to help the British government run smoothly. Gotcha. Sometimes. He is the British government. That's how much he's positioned, and he's made for himself because it's the only one that exists and it didn't exist before him and it won't exist after him. For Mycroft Holmes, who uses the same type of powers Sherlock does for different reasons. You have, of course, Arthur Cadogan West. He's a civic servant that was found dead with very important plans. He was killed by a foreigner called Oberstein. Technical accident. He was attacked, but they didn't mean for him to die. They were just trying to knock him out. He had seen someone with plans and wanted to ask why that person had them, and he was slammed in the back of the head with something, and it caved his skull in. He died from it. Sir Arthur. This is Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sir James Walter. He was one of the 2 that had a key to the area where the plans were kept safe. He died from embarrassment because his brother was the one that stole those plans, because he made replicas of the keys that James Walter had, and his brother stole the plans. Because, like Sherlock said, why would Cadogan need to steal the real ones and not make copies? Colonel Valentine Walter, he stole the plans for the submarine to sell because he had gambling debt that he wanted paid, and it was the only way he could think of doing it. Obviously, he approached Oberstein for it, and he was like, I need these papers back. You need to just read them over. And he's like, no, I need to keep some. It's like, but they're gonna know. I don't want anybody to know. And Oberstein's like, it's fine. And then when Cadogan came in, they died. They're like, we'll just plant these 7 papers on him, and I'll take these 3, and they'll just think he sold them. He's a traitor, which wasn't the case. Sidney Johnson was the other person with the key, of course, and he had nothing to do with the stolen plans. He didn't even know about them being stolen at first. Lestrade, he is the inspector on this case. He comes with Mycroft when Mycroft goes to see Sherlock Holmes and says, I'll await your information so I can go and arrest the right person. Of course, when they call for not Oberstein, but for the person who sold the plans to Oberstein, Mycroft and, of course, Lestrade are there to see the person and get to the confession. Violet Westbury, the fiancée of Arthur Cadogan West that was left behind on a date when West noticed that happening and was technically the last person to saw him alive, even though it was Colonel Walters. She was the one that was known to be the last person to see him alive. Hugo Oberstein, a foreigner that paid for the plans after being approached about them. He killed West and was the one that set West up to be a traitor to his country. Or Sherlock Holmes unraveled it all. My favorite character was, of course, Sherlock Holmes in this one. Because, well, obviously, he sits there and why would he need to take the original and not make copies when he'd have time to make copies? Obviously, he's trusted, So something didn't add up, and of course, the fall didn't add up. Holmes figured out that he was actually on the roof and not from a carriage. So he figured all that stuff out with very little clues. My most disliked character was Oberstein for his evil deeds on pinning someone else with the blame for being a traitor instead of doing it with Colonel Walter, like he should have. What stood out as memorable was how Sherlock did not label Cadogan as a traitor right off like the rest of them did. He was thinking about everything because he didn't have a train ticket and he didn't appear to be coming from one of the carriages. So he was like, how is he the traitor? How did he die? Why did he die? He just didn't believe he was a traitor at first because he didn't think everything added up. My favorite passage from the story is: a moment later, the tall and portly form of Mycroft Holmes was ushered into the room, heavily built and massive. There was a suggestion of uncouth physical inertia in the figure, but above all this unwieldy frame, there was perched a head so masterful in its brow, so alert in its steel grey, deep-set eyes, so firm in its lips, and so subtle in its play of expression, that after the first glance one forgot the gross body and remembered only the dominant mind. So there's not a lot of passages in these very short ones. It's a lot of talking that happens, so you have to get the passages where you can. So that's where that passage came from, and it's one of the only ones that was interesting because it actually describes Mycroft and his intelligence, like Sherlock Holmes. My favorite quote: "We must fall back upon the old axiom that when all other contingencies fail, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth." So this is the first time I have read or listened to, since I've been reading these Sherlock Holmes books, is the first time I've heard that. And that's his most famous line. Whatever remains, however improbable, impossible, must be the truth. That's the number one staple besides it's elementary, Watson. Elementary. Tree. Those are the two staples that you have. And I've only heard this one once. So that's it. I haven't heard it a second time either. And those are the things that are more likened to Sherlock Holmes than anything else. It's a little bit of a surprise that it's only mentioned once so far out of all of them that I have read. And, I still got 40 more to go through, maybe if I can get to them all. Hopefully I do have them all. So that right there, there's 62 of these. That right there shows me that it's not something he says all the time. And maybe it's one of the more famous quotes that they liked from him. And that's why it blew up. With the same thing with the elementary Watson. We'll see. What I thought about the ending of the book. West was cleared. His good name was restored. And I put a D with a good name. Valentine Walter gets arrested for his treacherous ways and accessory to murder. And of course, Sherlock figures it all out with Watson observing from the background. What book/story did it remind me of the other Sherlock Holmes books in Detective Conan the manga? This book is part of a series called Sherlock Holmes with way too many stories to list. I rate this a 3.7 because it was more involved case that had Mycroft in it. It was not as short as the others. So, if you think it deserves a like, comment, or even your lovely subscription, drop it down below. I will see you next illusion.